Hey, Lucky Bees. I've got a really awesome guest for you today. I know most of the women in our community know who she is. She's a poet, she's a speaker, she's an author, she's a light worker, she's Oprah approved, if that's important to you. And really, she's just a really great force for good in the world. So, Danielle LaPorte, welcome.
That was lovely. Thanks.
Yeah, how do you describe yourself these days?
How do I describe myself these days?
Yeah, like when someone says,
Um,
"Who are you and what do you do?" Like it's such a big question these days, and it's like feels so meaningless sometimes. But what
yeah.
do you say when people ask you?
Well, I just say I'm a writer, and I hope they don't ask anything else.
Yeah,
It's actually I love the question. I don't love the question. I love asking it of other people. But yeah, someone says, "What do you do?" I go, "Well, I'm a writer," and then they go, "What do you write about?" And
yeah,
I go, "Well, self-help stuff, inspirational stuff." "Oh, so are you a motivational speaker?" I'm like, "Well, I don't really like to be called a motivational speaker, but yeah, kind of that." And then we leave it at that. And then sometimes they're like, "Well, what have you written?" And then, my book titles are so like kind of poetic in general. I'm like, "Well, I wrote a book called The Desire Map." What's that about? So anyway, I actually wrote a book called The Fire Starter Sessions, which talks about this exact question. How do you
yeah,
respond when somebody asks you what you do? And how do you feel about it? And I mean, my advice in that case, which I don't always take, is I think it's so much better to talk about what you're interested in. There's a real conversation to be had there. The fact is, I don't want to have a lot of real conversations because I'm such an introvert. I want to have real conversations with, like, just once in a while with one person at the party. I have a hard time having small talk, but I guess, it wouldn't be small talk if I took my advice and told them I'm really interested in consciousness. Yeah.
yeah. And I find people are more open now than we think because I say the same thing when people ask me. I say, "Oh, I'm a writer," because sometimes you just don't want to go there. But
Mm-hmm.
then the most surprising people sometimes come in, and like my accountant, he's like, "I read your newsletter. I love what you say. Yeah, I'm trying to manifest something as well." And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, my brother told me you watched The Secret the other day, like this macho army dude." People are sort of starting to be open to it, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's like it's just easier just to say, "Oh, I'm a writer." Um, Now, I read your book recently, and I actually read it when I was on a goddess retreat.
Mm.
And we had tons of space in this goddess retreat with lovely Julie Parker. And she's like, "All right, ladies, go and read a book, take a nap." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
Like,
what? I
when's the
paid to be
next
here.
session?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I went, I'm finally going to read Danielle's book. And it really like I was like, "Oh," because, and I loved it more than your other books, I have to say. But the first thing I want to ask you, because I read it, one bit of it when you said you threw out all your crystals, and I was like, "Fuck, do I have to throw out all my crystals now?" And then I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "That's the point." She's not saying like, "Okay, I'm doing something everyone has to copy," but I know that you have
Mm-hmm.
that effect in the
Mm-hmm.
world and in your
Mm-hmm.
world. And I guess you do something or you say something, and then you see the domino effect of
Mm.
everyone doing it after you. So what do you say to, to those of us who really look at someone like you and go, "What's she doing? Do I have to do what she's doing now?"
Well, I think you got the point. Don't do what I'm doing unless what you want to do, unless what I do resonates with you. Do what you want to do. And maybe it's part of the choices I'm making. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my point specifically about crystals is that too often they're becoming a crutch. And I think it's like this unexamined belief that we have, like you're buying them for a reason. You think they're going to add some value to your life. So you're investing some belief in the technology, the power that is mineral consciousness. But
Mm.
you need to really be mindful and awake and look at that. Like if you believe that crystals can have energetic sway in your life and make you feel better, then the corollary is true. They can have,
Mm.
they can weigh you down. They can be programmed for good or for bad. And should you really be buying a crystal egg to stick up your vajayjay off of the internet from someone you don't know? Like, let's just be really mindful about these tools that we want to have save us. And then, I have really specific beliefs now around crystals based on my experience, but like, that's my experience. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, similarly, when you talked about banning yourself from getting advice from other sources, I think that, again, that was like, oh my God, because at the start of the year, every January I have this thing where I go, who am I? What am I doing in the world?
Good.
And this year, but this year hit me more than ever, right? And I went out to every single person that I knew.
Oh dear.
And I was like, my astrologer, my tarot reader, my, all these new, and I was like, you tell me the answer, right? So
How to go? Wait. How did it go?
It was good because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I knew that, but I kept on looking for more. I was like, but I need more. Tell me.
I mean,
I was waiting for
isn't that the irony? Like, it's still never enough. It's like, you told me it's coming and he's coming and it's coming and it's coming. But how do I get there? How do I show up? It's like, it's just, that's the thing. It's like sugar. Sugar is never enough. Once it hits your system, you're always going to want more. Outside input like that, so much of the time, not all the time. Sometimes it's just the right amount. It's beautiful. It's like so truly helpful and supportive. But so much of the time, it's like crack. Can't get enough.
Yeah, and it was for me. So, I mean, listening to that, hearing that, I was like, okay, so for you, when you stopped doing that as much or stopped relying on that, and you said you started to hear answers, how did that manifest for you?
It's a great question to ask now, because it's now been, let me fix my earphone. It's now been, we're going on a year actually without any astrology. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I had to check myself.
Yep.
No astrology readings. I haven't had an intuitive reading. There's an energy person that I work with for sure. And I still have my shrink. Girl's always got to have her psychologist. And I think what I've learned is nobody can predict the future. Like, my inner voice isn't telling me what's coming. I can't really see what's coming. But my inner voice is much clearer about like what's happening here in my body, what's right and wrong today. And that's really all I need. And I think, with respect to psychics and clairvoyance and the like, I say what they see for you coming down the road could be so accurate today. They really could be seeing the trees in the forest for you. But you can make a different choice tomorrow that changes the course. Tragedies happen and magic happens and people come into your life and they have different destinies and karma. I don't really believe in destiny, but and everything can change. And there's been things that were predicted for me that I really felt in my bones. Curveball. Didn't happen that way. Things that I didn't see coming that were really positive and really negative. And I don't think any of the psychic readings really nailed it. I was going to say they didn't help, but that's not true. Sometimes they were really helpful because they were really, really comforting. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think sometimes when you're in the muck of it, getting comfort from someone who has the capacity to see through some veils is like a really healthy move to make. But you need to be playful about it, not fixed. And any good psychic, I have some really highly intuitive, professionally clairvoyant friends. And the good ones will tell you that. Like 50-50 here. This is what I see today. Let's go from here. Yeah.
So how do you make decisions? How do you make decisions on big stuff and small stuff? Is it the same? Do you wait on it? Do you ask? Do you wait for inner knowing? What's your favorite kind of?
Well, that's a great question. One is I'm way less intense. I'm way less, I'm always going to be intense. I think I'm less, attached, pushy. That's the word. I write about this in the desire map. I'm less pushy about my decisions and what I want to have happen. So I know that it's 50-50. I also have, I know it's 50-50 if it's going to be the right choice, you know. I also have such a profound trust now. Like I've failed enough. I've succeeded enough. I've been surprised enough that, oh my gosh, everything was divine. There's some things that didn't happen for me. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is devastating. This is borderline tragic. Nope. Year later, so glad that didn't happen. It turned out to be incredibly useful. I made gold out of that. So there's that. So I've really lightened up. But your question about the actual how, my core desired feelings. I wrote a book about this. It actually really works. And I still practice it every day deeply in my life. Like, how do I want to feel? Doesn't mean I don't get off track. Doesn't mean I don't make decisions, that don't include those. I forget to take my own medicine. But when I take my own medicine and say, I'm clear. I want to feel beautiful. I want to feel light. I want to feel unified. Those are some current core desired feelings right now. When I make my choices based on those things, feels way better.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting there. I'm learning to trust myself rather than asking other people. But thank you. Your book really helped for that. It was like a wake-up call. And not only that, when you said and it saved me money, I was looking at my expenses for year and we had a great, multi-million-dollar year. And I'm like, I spent a ton of money asking other people for their opinions on stuff that I could have just done myself.
And you know what? It's not just the money, it's the time. Like that was one of the revelations I had when I looked at my day planner and I was like, oh my God, I got this therapy session. I got this Skype thing with the shaman. I mean, all things I was excited about, but what I really want to do is just be creative. It's actually taking me out of my business and out of what is the most healing thing in my life, which is my creativity and time with my friends. Just hang out with your friends. It's so much more fun and cost effective.
I know. It's funny. I'm a massive introvert as well, and I totally get it. And it's like, oh, friends going to the beach? Like, am I allowed to do that shit? So I want to backtrack. I saw you speak a couple of years ago at Marie's event, and you stood up and you said, I'm going to knock it out of the park for you guys. And it like hit me, right? And I was like, is that like, and I've always wanted to ask you, is that an affirmation for yourself of like your way of going? Or like, where does that come from? Because I've never heard anyone start a speech like that. And it blew me away with its quiet power and confidence. So what's behind that?
That was a declaration of intention. This is what I'm here for. Let's set the stage. I'm going to leave it all on the stage. I'm going to give you all I've got. And I'm confident I can do it. You might not agree. I'm going to do my best here.
So is it for you as well?
No, it's not just for me. Oh, is it for me? Yeah, sure.
Saying that because I was thinking, starting that speech like that, that feels good, for you, I'm sure.
It's good, it's scary, it's exhilarating. Yeah.
I heard Susie Orman stand up at a Hay House conference, and she started her speech with, I stand before you a very, very, very wealthy woman. And it was another declaration of like, holy shit, that's some quiet power there too. Segueing into money, at that same event, you talked about having the right money shoes on. And I've alluded to this a few times, and I've mentioned it a few times to my peeps that you've said it, but I've never been able to quite capture the essence of what that means. Can you speak to the concept of money shoes?
That comes from an experience where I put a proposal out to a potential client. The client was super wealthy. This is $1 billion company. So huge marketing budget. I was going to write something for them. I knew that I could have charged around $200,000 for it. that felt really uncomfortable. It was nerve-wracking. It was throwing me off, and it felt out of integrity. It actually felt a little bit greedy. And I called a friend late at night and I was like, what should I charge? Because I know I could get this, but this feels more in line with like where I am right now. It just feels better. But should I, I don't even like this saying, should I leave the money on the table? That's the money ain't on the table until the check clears. So, and she used the phrase, this is my friend Sam, she used the phrase money shoes. And it's like, if your shoes are too big, if you try and go for too much money, you're going to get blisters. You're going to wobble. You're going to trip. It needs to feel just right. And here, I think the most important part of that story is that I charged what felt good. Because my energy was so aligned and felt so clean and I was in integrity, I hit that out of the park. And I got that project done in half the time. I had no doubt in my capacity. I had no doubt in the value I was adding. So I was probably, by the time I delivered it, was making $500 an hour if I would have prorated it hourly. And boom, delivered. Everybody felt good. I felt good. Moved on my next project. Charge more.
So you had the right money shoes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I see this a lot. And obviously, I teach money stuff. And I don't always advocate high prices either. Like you got to feel good where you're at. And I see a ton of people and they're unsure, or again, they're crowdsourcing their prices. What do you think I should charge? What do you think I should charge? And it's such a huge problem. And it stuck with me for years. That was Hurricane Sandy, Rich, Happy and Hot, I think.
Oh, God, that was. I walked off the stage, literally got off the stage and had to get a rental car to drive out of town to get back to Canada for Halloween. I want to talk about charging specifically in this space.
Please.
Because what I see is a lot of money grabbing and a lot of gouging and a lot of overpricing because it's ego-based it's ego-based pricing. And it's not good. I mean, feeling out of integrity with yourself, it creates this kink in your energy. It's a little bit poison. And you really have to do what feels right and aligned with you. And sometimes you got to leave it to mystery. Like, I don't know why. I only want to charge $100 for this, but it feels right. And then you end up selling more. Or you get a magic client who's like, you're the one person who felt like they had the right pricing out of everybody else. They end up being this huge client. Or you just do it for a little while and you move on to the next thing. So I'm really I'm so bummed out by the overpricing that's happening. And, I'm struggling with pricing right now in my own business. And sometimes when you have this big technological machine like I do now, and I'm dealing with multiple currencies in different countries, and it gets difficult when you become part of the system. But I got to find a workaround with the system so I feel in integrity. Right now I have to charge I don't have to. I choose to charge US prices because of where my clientele is. But it means lots of people can't afford Desire Map licensing. I want a woman in Poland to be able to do it. I don't know. There's going to be some changes in how we do things.
Yeah, I mean, same being based in Australia. Most of my clients are in the States. All my expenses are in US dollars. I do the same thing. I have to charge tax to my Australian customers, like I think you guys do in Canada. And it's tricky. It's tricky. And I think we've probably got the two extremes. We've got people who are feeling out of integrity or being pushed to charge high prices. And then there's the people who can't charge anything. And they're really struggling to even make a living for themselves or going back to their jobs or just, talent in spades, but just not able to charge for what they do. And so I always like to ask people, at the start of your business, when you had to ask money for your talent or ask money for what you did, what did you struggle with?
I didn't.
You didn't. You were just like, sweet.
I mean, when I first started charging for one-on-one services, that's not true. I can tell you a story about when I struggled. So Story A is I was doing these one-on-one sessions. I had a business partner at the time. We were both doing them. And the best way to put it is it was like soulful one-on-one branding. You got this moniker for yourself where you could design your life by it or choose your holiday or, and that started off, we were $150 because the phone wasn't ringing and it was worth it. And then it was $300 and then it moved up to like $1,500. And we stood in the foyer of our little office. We were paying the rent on the credit card still and said, should we make this leap? And we were a little sweaty, made the leap. I just changed the number of the price on the website. I didn't justify it anymore. I didn't write an extra paragraph about why it was so valuable. Just changed it. Monday, more clients. There was something energetic. I mean, we just flipped the switch where the universe was like, you're owning the value of this. It's really positively affecting people's lives. And then when I went out on my own after that business imploded, I knew I had been around enough that I had something of value to offer. And I didn't have a huge list at the time. I had 60 people on my list. And I was like, $300. Called them fire starter sessions, one-on-one. Could be 60 minutes, could be an hour. I was going to look at your business in advance. We would jam. Maybe you'd get some notes. And did a few of those. I was like, this is really valuable. People are getting $10,000 ideas. I'm really having a positive effect here. And then within a couple months, I was $1,000 a session. I had a 6-month waiting list. And I did that until it didn't feel right anymore. And then I just came to a cold stop, stopped doing that.
Yeah. I actually followed a similar path. I think I did 75 and I remember going to 150 and just thinking, I can't believe I get paid $150 to help people. And my sister, who's 19 years younger than me, I remember she said, do people just pay you to like be their friend? It's like, that sounds really weird. And I felt a little bit of that shame as well, and so in the online space, charging like $100 is nothing, but in the real world where people are, earning minimum wage or it's a ton of money. But I see so many people, they can't even get to the $100 stage because they're stuck in the bartering or they're stuck in, I'll just do it for testimonials forever and ever and ever. And it's just, they just need to get over that little hump. Do you have any advice for those people?
Well, you can have a sliding scale. You can still, sometimes that's such a healthy inclination to be affordable, right? To a lot of people. It's not always a great business strategy, but a lot of the times it is. And you can have a sliding scale. You can have X amount of clients a month or a year or a quarter where it's free. You can donate 10% tithe to charity. You can give back. You can do circles where you're serving 6 people at once instead of one-on-one. There's ways to still be really accessible and really philanthropic at the same time. So there's that. You may also be in an industry or a space where the market just won't bear it. And you just need to suck it up. That's the milieu that you're in, and that's the price you got to charge. You can always raise your prices and lower them.
Yeah.
Nobody's paying really that close of attention to you. Yeah. Don't worry about what you're going to look like if you change your mind. You're going to look like a creative, responsive entrepreneur. Yeah. And you need to stand in your passion to serve. And that will really help you show up and value yourself. Yeah.
So you live in Canada. I live in Australia. But there's a ton of stuff going on in America at the moment that affects all of us. And I really, even when I read your book, I was thinking, when did she write this? Because it just feels so of now.
I wrote it at the right time. Yeah.
You totally did. What responsibility do you feel, or do you? Okay, my question, I guess, all that's happening, right? And sometimes it feels like we have to dance around it. Like, because I feel like, oh, I'm Australian. How can I talk about what's happening in America?
Because
How
you're a
do you
global citizen. Yeah.
exactly right? What do we do? What do we do at the moment?
What do we do at the moment?
Yeah, what do we do? I know it's a
Yeah,
big question,
we
but
speak up and we
yeah,
speak out. This is the time to not worry about political correctness. There is no political correctness anymore. It's shot. But there is morality and there is ethics and there is your code of conduct and your belief system, whatever it is. And now is really the time. You want to create change? You want to be a light worker? You want to leave the world better than you found it? You want to be a loving, compassionate human being? Speak up. Speak out. Don't worry about offending anybody. Everybody right now who's on Instagram has a Facebook page. If you have access to the internet, if you email other human beings, you are a broadcaster. And there's going to be pushback. You will be offensive. You might hurt somebody's feelings. You might have some difficult moments around the dining room table at family holidays. That is part of being a leader in your life. It's part of being whole and powerful and a thinking woman, human being. Don't be quiet. Silence leads to oppression and depression and tumors and, fucked up political policies.
yeah,
Your voice creates your reality. Speak the reality you want.
yeah. I hear a lot of people being really scared about doing that at the moment. They're really scared about backlash. People saying, stay in your lane. You're not allowed to talk about this. Or for those of us who aren't American, it's like, well, this isn't your country. Deal with it. So yeah, thank you for that. And I know it's for me, I need to grab some courage around that for myself. And I'm sure there are tons of people listening who want to do the same.
Just break it down. Are you not going to talk about what a better world looks like for you because some stranger on the internet tells you to stay in your lane? Come on, ladies, let's go. Yeah. And you can't be in this space called social media or social entrepreneurship or wanting to be a change agent and not get some pushback. It's part of the territory. And sometimes it still hurts. Ugh. I mean, it's definitely 100% irritating all the time. But keep going. Keep going. You're not getting some pushback. You're not speaking up. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Just to finish up, I've just got a couple of little random money questions because my audience, we love talking about money, right? What was your first job?
Love little random questions. My first job was working in the ice rink arena for my dad in the cafeteria, serving people disgusting hot dogs and that really bad pure sugar hot chocolate that came out of the machine. And my lesson there is making $4.20 an hour. And my lesson, I was 14. My lesson from my dad was he did something I didn't like. And part of it was just my teenage attitude. I was like, oh, Dad, that is so totally not cool. And he said, the boss isn't always right, but the boss is always the boss. And I thought, I'm going to be the boss. I'm going to do whatever I can to not work for somebody else. And it may have been like unconscious in a 14-year-old way, but that really hit me. I was like, well then, this is not the position for me. Yeah.
What's the first thing you remember buying with your own money?
With my own money? Well, when I quote unquote made it, which, I'm happy with where I'm at, but you never feel like you made it. There's two things I wanted out of life. One, a hot tub. And two, I wanted surround sound in my house. And a couple years ago, I was sitting on my back porch late at night, having a sneaky smoke with a girlfriend. And I said, all I really want is a hot tub when I'm successful. And she was like, Dee, I think you can afford a hot tub now. And I was like, oh my God, I can. Like it hadn't even occurred to me that I had enough money that I could. And I was like, they're really, and she's like, you have the money now. I was like, oh, I do. And I was on the phone the next day ordering hot tub. Yeah.
I think mine was like shopping in those stores that I thought were really expensive as a kid, like the surf stores, like the Billabong things. And I'm like, oh, it's actually not that expensive to buy from those stores. I just had it in my mind.
You can get a name brand.
I think this is like a Billabong thing, because my mum used to buy me like imitation Cooter Lines jumpers and stuff from like Target. And so now I'm like, I can totally afford to shop at Billabong. I was like, yes, I can.
You went genuine.
Exactly. What's your earliest memory around money?
My earliest memory. It's not a really positive one.
Most of us are in the same boat.
Yeah. My parents had split up and I chose to live with my dad, and the bills were coming and bills are piling up. My dad made decent money. We're middle class, and staying on top of stuff was not his style. And I started opening the bills and writing the checks. I would get him to sign them. But I took care of business. Yeah.
How old were you?
That's 13, 14.
And how did that feel for you? Was it empowering, or you felt burdened by it?
I felt mature. I didn't like that feeling of getting a letter from a credit card company felt shameful. I didn't like that at all whatsoever. I didn't like the idea of owing people money. And, I actually have a really healthy relationship with debt. I'm so cool with debt. And there's times I have it in my life and times I don't. And so it didn't affect me that way. But I was never going to have anybody call me asking for money ever again.
Yeah. Yep. That sucks. So last question then. Are you working on money mindset at the moment? Is there any block that you're working on to go to the next level in your business, and what is it?
I don't have a block. I am great at making money. I'm not a saver. My style is like make a lot, take a chunk, put it aside. So I chunk it. I'm a real chunker instead of, I'll just peel off a little bit at a time. It's just not as exciting. Maybe I need to grow up. My mindset shift right now is around simplifying. I've got a really complicated business structure and technological support system. And I feel like I'm working for it sometimes. So I really want to go back to some basics and I'm going to can this big system that's supporting I have $1 million website. That's ridiculous. I'm getting back to the heart of the matter.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are feeling it at the moment as well. It's like simplify. And also I think when a lot of us started, even the tech was complicated, and there's so many things now that are easier. Like,
everything talks to everything. It's so much more integratable. If it doesn't integrate, if the technology doesn't play well with others, keep walking. It's not the right system.
Yes, gone are the days when you had to do your own HTML code and do all these hacks and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it can be simple now. Anything coming up that people need to look out for you? How do people get in touch with you? What's going on in your world?
Well, yeah, I'm at DanielleLaPorte.com, and the center of my universe is Instagram. I love Instagram. Everything I make hits Instagram first or eventually. So I really love that space. I love the visual language. And I'm going to get much more, like my editorial, my content, going to get even juicier. This is part of going back to my roots. I just want to write really useful stuff that is hopefully beautiful at the same time. Yeah.
I love that. As a Virgo, that really hits me, right? Because I want to be useful beyond anything else.
Yeah, and I understand.
That's what people need. You're a Virgo as well, are you?
Well, I have 5 planets in Virgo, but my sun sign is Gemini.
I see,
So
yeah.
I'm more Virgo than most Virgos. So I get you. I understand.
It's like, please let me be of use to you. And it's like,
Yeah.
so when people say that really was useful to me, that's so sexier to Virgo
Oh,
types like us, then that was
yes.
inspiring. It's like, I was of use to you.
I have
Thank
earned my
you.
keep on the planet. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Danielle, thank you for such a lovely, juicy conversation. I
Yeah.
really
Thank you.
appreciate you. My lucky bees love you. And
Mm,
thanks for all you do in the world. And thanks for
yeah.
inspiring us. And even though sometimes, it spawns a whole bunch of copycats where people go, what's Danielle doing? It's from love, because we
Yeah.
see you as a leader in our community,
Yeah.
and we love you. So
I
thank
get
you.
that. I feel that. And you can do your own thing. People still come. People want your honey, not your version of somebody else's honey. Yeah, really. You have a story to tell. Yeah. So thank you. And thanks to everybody who's really listening right now.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.